All right, one last look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday morning. A couple accidents to report. One at I-26 westbound at mile marker 129. There is a right lane blocked. Another one at Alpine Road and Polo Road. Another one at I-20 eastbound and I-26. And then one at Coon Road and Broad River Road. And finally, Wise Ferry Road at Highway 378. Take a look at your weather. It's raining outside right now. Should clear up around lunchtime. High today is going to get up to 53 degrees. Tomorrow, sunny and 53. Thursday, cloudy. A little bit warmer, though, at 57 degrees. That's your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday here on The Game. Oh, 9 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you here on The Game as, well, now we navigate the offseason. It's officially here. No bowl game. No more football to be played until, September 5th next year, I think. We still don't know the opponent. Carolina, that's something else that has to be done soon, I guess, is decide who's taking the place of Miami for game number 1, and that'll be the next time in an actual game. I'm assuming there'll be a spring game, though with stadium renovations, maybe not.
And that just got started yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. They were like, as soon as the clock hits 0 against Clemson, we're getting things rolling here. I don't know. We may not actually see this team on the field in any capacity until September 5th or whenever that is.
Well, we'll see them in spring practice.
Well, I'm talking like the general public.
General public.
And again, there might not be a spring game. I don't know.
Maybe they should just open up the facility, have it in the indoor or something, and just put some bleachers in there.
Honestly, that wouldn't be a terrible idea.
No.
Now you'd have to limit
there's space
the people in.
That's what I'm saying. So you make it like I hate to say make it a ticketed event for a freaking spring game, but I don't know. I think they'll be able to do the spring game in the actual stadium. Though I can't imagine, maybe it'll be I'm trying to think of an example, recently, FSU had half their stadium off limits, right? When they were doing those massive renovations.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe something like that where you only open up a portion of the stadium. And that's basically what South Carolina did this past spring game anyway.
That's true.
Where they had half the stadium open and that was it. So maybe that's what they do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. That's news that'll come out months from now, I'm sure. That's not the top priority in terms of all the things they have to deal with right now in terms of, how do we do the spring game? That'll come out as time goes along. I will say now that there's no spring transfer portal window, I think there's going to be a lot more spring games happening around the country.
I hope so.
Coaches aren't afraid. And again, it's Matt Rule's fault. Because he put it in their ear hey, we don't want to get talent poached. And other coaches oh, man, you're right. Let's cancel our spring game. Now that there's no spring window, maybe spring games make their return. I don't know. Or at least we can see them on TV.
That would be nice.
Most of them weren't even televised last year.
No, that's right. Yeah, South Carolina did it, but they didn't televise theirs. And their deal was that they'd get a 30-minute special on SEC Network or something.
Which just ends up being whatever you want to be allowed seen gets seen. It's not anything that's going to give anything away.
No, it's not. I do wonder though who they would add for that September 5th game, because
it's got to be an FCS school, right?
That, or I wonder. Now with teams starting to schedule lesser opponents in those slots that you have, I wonder if a lot of teams will do in-state schools. Maybe South Carolina will rotate SC State, Citadel, Furman, teams like that.
Maybe.
I think that would be pretty cool.
Well, we're in an interesting spot because the running joke when it comes to football scheduling is it's done so far in advance, and we're scheduling games for 2037 and 2038. Rarely do you have one be done within the calendar year. But that's kind of the situation you're in. And look, I fully expect it's going to be an FCS team, and that could be Wofford, that could be Furman, that could be State again for all I know. But you're going to, and you're playing Towson in week number 2. You're going to set yourself up to start the season 2-0. Let's be honest. Like, you should win those first 2 games, and then Bill and I were talking about this yesterday. You're going to play 9 straight SEC games and then Clemson at the end of the year.
Better be ready for it.
You better be ready.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we got to figure out is who the heck they're going to be playing coming up here in
I'm surprised that
2026.
Surprised that hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah, I don't know. And because, like, what? Alabama canceled their series with West Virginia.
Yeah, they got ECU coming to town, which, as of right now, that looks like a pretty tough little G5 school coming to play Alabama. Again, that's all based on what we've seen from ECU this year. But
Well, it depends on if their offensive coordinator's there or not.
I know. Yeah, we'll see if John David Baker's still there. But, ECU's got a pretty good offense. So, but, yeah, I mean, they canceled their series with West Virginia. I mean, this is going to happen more and more around the country, especially if – and I don't think Texas is getting into the playoff, but let's say they do get left out for sure, and it's like, oh, well – what's the point in scheduling a game with Ohio State? And then you take that mentality throughout the rest of the sport.
We'll get into the playoff rankings and projections coming up a little bit later. But, yeah, that'll be if Texas is on the outside looking in because they don't have another data point. They don't have a game to play this weekend that can – and we learned last year that the committee said, hey, if you don't play, you can't do anything to improve your standings. It makes total sense. You have to rely on people ahead of you losing.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, look, I think Texas has a pretty quality resume to get in. The reality of the situation is there's only so many spots. Like, we're talking probably at most maybe 2 spots left, if that. I think it depends on what happens with the conference champions and whatnot. It depends on what happens this weekend in conference championship games. But I think Texas is not getting in. I think we'll see what happens with Alabama. I think that's a big one. If they lost again this weekend to Georgia and were left out, does that open the door? I mean, I think we're going to get to a point where it's not just Texas. I think Vanderbilt's also going to get left out, which is unfortunate because they're 10-2. Like 10-2 was the mark to get into the playoff last year, but I think there's just it's just shaped up to be a little bit differently this year, where you got more good 10-2 teams and. You're kind of setting the bar at like, hey, not every 10-2 team is guaranteed to get in. And it's mainly because you have the conference champions getting in plus the group of 5 team.
We'll examine all that coming up in a little bit, but we need to dive into the reality of a 4-8 season for South Carolina right after our Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all 9s.
Oh, it is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9. So the dust is settled. South Carolina ends the 2025 season with a dismal record of 4-8, which is just downright disappointing. It's failure of a season considering what your expectations were coming in and the hype and all that kind of stuff. And look, making the playoff is tough. And maybe that was too high of a bar to set. But like reasonably, I thought this is a team that could have been like 8-5, maybe at worst like 8-4, maybe at worst like 7-5. You know what I mean? Or just a little bit of a step back from last year. But considering all the talent that you lost, that's not unreasonable to expect. But 4-8, never saw that coming.
No, I thought at worst they would just barely make a bowl game, like 6-6 maybe. But yeah, I mean, my expectation going into the year was that they were going to go 9-3, at worst 8-4. But here we are at a point where, I mean, you look at the schedule, you look at the games they lost. Like a lot of these were pretty close going to the fourth quarter, and that's the dilemma here. Is that if this were last year, any other season, South Carolina probably wins some of these games, but the fact that they it's a different year, and South Carolina just never played well down the stretch in games and could not finish, and that's why you saw them lose games to Missouri where they had a lead in the fourth quarter. They lost to LSU in a one-score game. They lost to Alabama when they had the lead. I mean, Ole Miss was a one-score game before it got ugly. A&M, they had the lead. And then Clemson was a one-score game going into the fourth quarter. So that's the story of the season right there. And that's why they ended up going 4-8 is, for the most part, they just could not get the job done in those critical moments.
Which of those losses stings the most? It's got to be A&M, right?
I would say probably. I also want to say the Alabama game was also just a real gut-wrenching type of loss for the Gamecocks, just because it's like, I don't think no one expected you. And that's the other thing. Nobody expected them to beat Alabama or A&M. It just so happens they played really well against those teams at times and then had the lead going into the fourth quarter, but just couldn't get the job done. I don't know. I think A&M's probably a little bit more disappointing just because of the overall collapse. Mm-hmm. And that's the game that's probably the worst on their schedule is they were up 30-3 at halftime and blew a 27-point lead. Didn't score the rest of the way. I mean, that's got to be the most frustrating part, I think, right there.
Well, and the fact that A&M played exactly the type of game you needed them to play in the first half to give you that opportunity. They were making mistakes. Marcel Reed was missing throws. Guys are dropping passes. And you dropped several would-be turnovers yourself, but still, you had a 27-point lead. And the unfortunate part is, as long as Beamer's the coach here, quite frankly, until he gets this team to the college football playoff, I think your identity is the team that blew that lead. Mm-hmm. I think this is the thing that people continue to reference until proven otherwise. Until you go out there and do something spectacular, you're going to be known as the team that blew the 4-touchdown lead on the road at Texas A&M. And that's a hard identity to shake.
And I think the other thing is we knew that stretch of games from October 11th to November 15th was going to be a gauntlet. I mean, it was. You faced all top 15 teams over that stretch. You had to go to LSU. You had to go to Ole Miss. You had to go to A&M. You hosted Oklahoma, and you hosted Alabama. I mean, that was going to be really, really tough. And I think best case scenario, you were hoping to go maybe 2-3. Worst case, you were just hoping to avoid going 0-5. But that's exactly what happened, right? I mean, this team just they just had opportunities in those games. The Oklahoma game's the real one where I'm like, okay, they didn't really have a chance in that one. But the other 4 games all had opportunities in those games to go win it and simply just couldn't. And I don't know what corrections you make to try and be a better fourth quarter team next year. I don't know what the exact formula is for that. Do you just go out and get better players? Like what do you do necessarily? I mean, do you change up your decision making? I don't know what the recipe is exactly, but South Carolina was so good in the fourth quarter under Beamer in those first 4 years, but looked like a completely different team when it came down to those situations this year.
And it's not like they don't emphasize it. It's in big, bold letters over
every
the facility.
Team emphasizes it.
Win the fourth quarter. But what are you doing? And I think it's something fundamental in your off-seasoning, your training, whatever it may be, that you're going to have to tear down to the studs to some degree and figure out. Among all the other things you're trying to fix with this program, that's the biggest thing, because guess what? Every game's 4 quarters. Every game takes 60 minutes. You don't play 3-quarter games. Like, you got to figure that part out, or else this is going to plague you again next year.
No, it certainly could. I mean, that is what ultimately ruined your season right there, was all the games that you had leads in, could not get the job done. I mean, you beat Missouri, A&M, and let's say Alabama. Let's say you win those 3 games. We're talking about winning 7 games right now and going to a good bowl game. I mean, that would change the entire season right there. And you would be 4-4 in the SEC. So, I mean, that would change a lot right there.
And given what that schedule was, it's obviously not a phenomenal year.
But you would take it. You would take it.
You held your own for the most part against a daunting schedule. And I think we certainly have been talking about Beamer on the hot seat going into next year. So, you know what? Given the talent that they lost from a year ago, they did okay. And that's something to build off of. But 4 and 8's a different story.
Yeah, much different story.
We'll go game by game and figure out when we should have known things weren't going to go well this year, or when was that point for us. With that coming up next, it is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry with you on your Tuesday here on The Game. Tyred here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. The holiday season is here, and the season of giving starts with getting. Twin Peaks has launched their holiday bonus card event, and you can buy a gift card for someone on your list, and they'll hook you up with a bonus card just for you, because giving feels great, but getting rewarded for it feels even better. You can share the gift of crave-worthy food, ice-cold 29-degree draft beers, and good times with the holiday bonus card. Bonus cards are redeemable January 1st through the 31st, 2026 at participating Twin Peaks locations. And while you're hanging out down there and getting that bonus card, may as well pull up a stool, grab a beer, grab some food, and take in all the great sports action that Twin Peaks has to offer with all those TVs from wall to wall. All this and more with our friends over at Twin Peaks. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Tonight, men's basketball in action, taking on Virginia Tech in the SEC ACC Challenge. Pregame coverage starting at 6:30. Tip-off at 7 right here on the game. That game over at Colonial Life Arena. We'll have some tickets to give away for it coming up a little bit later on in the show. But right now, we're examining the 4-8 season that was for South Carolina, and looking at this schedule, we talked about the A&M game, the Alabama game, being losses that stung the most. And not that we have a lot of options to choose from here, but what's the best win? Like, what win do you look back and say, all right, that was your best performance of the entire year? That's the one that in a 4-8 season you hang your hat on.
I'd say Coastal. I think Coastal was overall your best performance, especially coming off the heartbreak at A&M. It would have been easy for South Carolina to throw in the towel after that game, knowing they were going to be ineligible for a bowl game, and they played a really good football game. Lenore Sellers played really well. The defense was great. Special teams had the block. Well, they got on the block punt for a touchdown. They gave that up. But besides that, really good performance.
It was definitely the best overall performance, but I think there's also something to be said in the fact that we knew the season was kind of done at that point, or we didn't think we knew the season was done at that point because you weren't playing for anything. You just had the Clemson game left, and you were just hoping you could beat your rival to make it a 5-7 year instead of 4-8. And obviously that didn't end up happening. I might point at like Kentucky because I think there was still hope and optimism coming away from that game. We talked so much in the offseason about those first 5 games of the season, right? And how important it was to get through that stretch at no worse than 4-1, which we thought was very realistic. I think we all pointed at like the Missouri road trip as like, okay, that might be the game that you get tripped up, but Missouri's probably going to be a good team, so that's not the end of the world. But you wanted to be in a good spot coming away from those first 5 games before you endured the gauntlet that ended up being a gauntlet, going to LSU, playing Oklahoma, playing Alabama, going to Ole Miss, playing A&M, all those games that ended up being your worst stretch of the entire year. So at least with the Kentucky win, that got you to 3-2. Isn't exactly where you wanted it to be, but there was still like, okay, you're not in a terrible spot. And they played pretty well in that game for the most part. Obviously, you won it pretty comfortably, and that was Cutter Boley, making his first start on the road and all those kind of things. So you had a lot of factors working in your favor. But I think the fact that there was still optimism at that point in time coming away from that game maybe puts it a little bit higher on the list than the Coastal win for me.
I would say so. I could also see why that's the best game of the year for South Carolina, considering it was also their best opponent that they beat all year long. So, I mean, look, that win probably instilled a little bit of momentum heading into the bye week before that gauntlet of a stretch came up. But, yeah, I mean, either that or the Coastal win. Both are really good games for South Carolina.
So where do we pinpoint when we knew this season wasn't going well or that this year wasn't going to amount to a whole lot? Because I go back to that first 5-game stretch, and again, realistically, we hoped they would be no worse 4-1. We thought 5-0 was certainly a possibility, and when you look at it, right, you win the game against Virginia Tech. In hindsight, your offense was pretty dead for basically the middle part of that game, but you won, had some explosive plays like the Harbor touchdown, the Vakari Swain punt return touchdown. You felt good. SC State, I think we kind of explained that one away a little bit because it was a weird game. You kicked off late, and your offense didn't look great, but I don't think we were panicking yet. Vanderbilt, obviously, Lenore Sellers got hurt before halftime, didn't play the second half of that game. Really, it was defense that was more the story against Missouri because you missed all those tackles. Offense did enough. I mean, that looked like Sellers was kind of rounding into form, throwing the football, certainly. And then you had the win against Kentucky. So, I mean, we weren't, like, thrilled coming away from the first 5 games, but I don't think we thought the season was off the rails just yet, right?
No, I agree. I think the game for me where there's a few different moments throughout the season where they play good at one point. It's like, oh, man, they're going to be okay here, and then they don't. So I think to really define the moment where I feel like this season was probably off the rails, I would have to say it's the Oklahoma game, just because of everything that transpired that day, where you lose 26-7, first off, did not play well at all in that game. and then you have the fans chanting "Fire Shula." I think that was a low point in the season. You had Beamer expressing his frustrations after that game, and I think that's also the game where the fan base kind of started to get really agitated with him and kind of shift their tone on the season in a way. So I think that was, and it also came at the midway point in the year. So I think that was probably the game where it's like, yeah, this season's not going well because you had 4 losses at that point.
Well, don't sell yourself short. You play a very important role in kind of where that switch comes, because I agree with you. I think the Oklahoma game was kind of that turning point because you'd been on the road. You did all of nothing offensively for most of that game, save for the long Matthew Fuller touchdown run. And then you come against Oklahoma, a team that we knew they had a really good defense, but still you felt like you could do a little something, or hoping you were going to do something. You did nothing in that game, save for what? Was it the opening drive? No, they failed in the red zone on their opening drive.
They failed twice.
It was a couple times.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
It was bad. The fans had turned on Shula at that point in time, and again, you asked a reasonable question because that was the week after they'd fired Lonnie Teasley of, hey, you going to make more changes? And Beamer said what he said, and I think that was the moment where he lost a lot of fans this year.
Yeah,
because it was clear there was a problem with the offense, and that was, in the opinion of a lot of people, him not taking the accountability for it that he needed to.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that was definitely a shining moment in this disaster of a season. But, yeah, I mean, you could pinpoint really any of these losses, honestly. Like, after the Missouri game, I kind of felt like, well, there goes their playoff chances. That's not happening. After losing 2 SEC games, they were probably already out of SEC contention by that point after the Missouri game. But that Oklahoma game for sure had the feel of like, okay, like this season might end up being really, really bad.
Yeah, and gosh, it ended up being even worse than we thought. But yeah, I would say Oklahoma's probably about that point, because at that point you had dropped to 3-4, and all 4 of your losses were in conference play at that point in time. So you knew your playoff chances were shot at that point in time. Then it became about, okay, can you do enough to get yourself to a bowl game? That's kind of where the expectations shifted. I feel like it's like, okay, can you at least get yourself to 6 wins and salvage something of this season? And again, you were in position to beat Alabama. You were in position to beat A&M. You were in position to maybe go down and win against Clemson. You did none of those things, and that's why you're 4-8.
No, exactly. I mean, there's just so many moments throughout the season where it's like, man, if this just happened or that, maybe things would be different. But I mean, there's nothing you can do to change what happened. I mean, it was a disastrous season, and it's one where now you really have to look yourself in the mirror. Like, this is worse than 2 years ago when you were 1 win away from becoming bowl eligible and you finished 5-7. Like this is far worse than that, and there's a lot of work to be done to get this thing right.
Well, and 2 years ago, there were a lot of injuries, and look, nobody likes to make excuses, but it was more of a believable reason why maybe he had some of the struggles that he had, particularly on the offensive line.
Yes.
You lost Juice Wells, who, let's face it, would have been, if he'd stayed healthy and wanted to play, I guess, would have been a very solid piece to your offense, in addition to Xavier Legette. You had injuries on defense. Like, all those things did happen in 2023 that were a part of why you had the struggles that you had. It's not really the case this year. Yeah, you lost Case and Henry halfway through the year, but that's really the only, substantial injury you suffered. You, for the most part, were playing with what you had the entire year.
I agree. I think they had a few injuries along the way, but for the most part, yeah, you're right. I mean, they were relatively healthy this year, and that's the thing, is that I think this was a good roster coming into the season. It's just when you set the bar so high after last year, it was always going to be tough to follow it up with an even better season. But it's not even like they came close to exceeding those expectations. I mean, they were years away from doing what they did last year.
So now what? We'll get into what Coach Beamer had to say after the game on Saturday as we look ahead to the offseason and year number 6, where it's going to be make or break for Coach Beamer. That's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. It's Aaron and Jack Veltri on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the game, as now that we're officially in to the offseason for South Carolina football. A lot of things to be done. Signing day coming up tomorrow. Portal opens up coming up here in right at a month's time. Got to hire an OC. Got to hire maybe an offensive line coach. Got to make some other staff changes. What is on Coach Beamer's list of things to do now that the 2025 season is officially in the rearview mirror? He talked about that after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, we have a lot to get done here going forward. We got signing day on Wednesday, and I'm really excited about this signing class that we're going to sign on Wednesday. There's some day one difference makers on and off the field that we're going to bring into this program. A lot of them were here today and can't wait to be a part of this and know that they don't want to go through a season like this either, like we just went through. We'll meet as a team on Monday, kind of recap the season and talk about what's next with them. But there's a lot to get done in regards to hires on the coaching staff and other areas of the program. But there's we've this season was a really big disappointment in so many ways, record-wise. But, I also realize I think today was the 7th game that we've had this season that was a one-score game going into the fourth quarter. And we just haven't played well enough in the fourth quarter. And if we play better in the fourth quarter, we're all sitting here with a different feeling today and throughout the season. So we're not far away from where we need to get back to. It's a fine line. We got to be better with the details here going forward, but can't wait to get started on 2026. Already been doing some things from that standpoint prior to today from a staffing standpoint, and now that's over, after we get through signing day on Wednesday, can completely turn my full attention to staffing decisions and elevating this program, which is what I'm going to do, and my job as the head coach.
And once again, in there, he harped on the things he's been harping on a lot lately. They are close, right? They're only a couple plays here, a couple plays there, finishing the fourth quarter, and all that kind of stuff. And that's something I think everybody gets sick of hearing, because you don't want to hear about being close. You want to see them go out there and actually do it. Thing is, can you make that jump from being close this year to getting over that hump next year is the biggest question on what the future of this team is.
Yeah, I mean, there's to get there, there's a long list of things you got to do this offseason to get that thing right. And I don't even think we know the full extent of what type of changes are going to be made. Like coaching changes, yes, we expect to see that. Roster turnover, sure. A lot of new players brought in. But the nitty-gritty of, does some of the values of the program change? Do they do something different with their off-season workout program, right? That stuff we'll learn eventually, I'm sure. But there's so much that goes beyond just let's replace a coach here and add a new coach there and add a few players here and there. It's going to be, I would expect and hope that it's a full overhaul of what they've done in years past, because clearly it's not working.
Well, and the thing is here, I used this analogy yesterday talking to Bill. You remember the movie Click with Adam Sandler, where he had the universal remote that he could, pause time and stuff like that? Did you ever see that?
What was it?
The movie Click with Adam Sandler?
Yes.
Yeah, so he had this magic remote where he could pause time, and then he's the only one that can change things and move people around and affect things while nothing else in the world is moving. And yes, if you could do that, where you could pause all of college football, fix the things you need to fix to change what was wrong this year to make next year better, sure, that's great. But every other program's trying to get better too. Every other program is making staff changes. Every other program is going out in the transfer portal. Every other program is going out and signing the best talent that they can. What you perceive to be the changes you need to make this year better may not translate to making next year better, because guess what? Everybody else is trying to make themselves better too.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, you look at the schedule for next year. I mean, it's unclear how it's going to shape up, but I mean, it could be tough. I mean, you got Alabama on the schedule, you got Georgia on the schedule, you got Tennessee, Texas A&M, Oklahoma on the schedule right there. I mean, we're talking about a lot of playoff teams on the schedule, and all those teams are going to reload and get better heading into next year. Then you have all these schools with new coaches like Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky on the schedule that maybe were once perceived as lesser opponents, but who knows how they're going to look going to next year. So the clock is really ticking for Shane to get this thing right. I honestly hope he does. I hope he does, and he's here for years to come. But right now, I mean, he's got a lot of questions to answer in a short amount of time here in the offseason.
Well, and when you look at next year's schedule, yeah, you can look at Kentucky, who's, like I said, going to be having a new coach, going to Florida with a new coach, going to Arkansas with a new coach, and you can say, okay, those are gettable games, right? Because they're starting over and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, they're looking at you saying, oh, well, thank God South Carolina's coming in here at week number 7. That's going to be a gettable game for us. Like you have become, in 1 year, you went from the program that people looked at and said, oh, man, don't want to play South Carolina. Man, it's going to be a tough game when they come in here, to like, yeah, okay, when they come to us or we go to them, that's probably a game that we can win.
Yeah.
Like, it can happen that fast.
It can. I mean, who knows how these teams are going to look next year for sure. So, I mean, that alone makes it tough. And we expect South Carolina to probably go 2-0 in those first 2 weeks. We don't know who the week 1 opponent is, but Towson they should beat. And then from there, I mean, the 9-game schedule in league play. It's going to be with 1 bye week, right? So it's not 2 bye weeks like this year or last year. So makes it even tougher.
Well, and here's the thing, because, and we've seen this year, obviously, if you get into a place where your record is really bad midseason, most programs aren't afraid to move on from a coach then. But, like, how does your schedule set up? Because, okay, let's say you play an FCS school in week number 1, you play Towson in week number 2, you start off the season 2-0. Okay, that's fine. Well, what if your next 3 games are Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M? And reasonably, maybe you don't win any of those games.
Yeah.
So you're sitting at 2-3. Okay, well, then you to go to Oklahoma, and that's your 4th game. Well, now you're 2-4. You know, like, you play Tennessee, now you're 2-5. Like, that's a bad record, but it's also against really, really good teams. Almost all those teams going to be in this year's college football playoffs. So, like, how do you set expectations given how tough the schedule is, but also knowing next year needs to be significantly better than this year?
I mean, the expectation is going to be, and I personally don't think it should be this, because I'm a little bit more realistic, I feel, but the expectation for South Carolina is going to be CFP or bust, and we've heard Shane talk about it. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth.
Hey, listen, he's putting it out there
multiple times now, that South Carolina is going to be having a completely different season next year and going to be right in the mix for the college football playoff. If that is where they end up, then it'll be right back to good times and all the good vibes. Like, that's what it will end up being. But, I mean, more realistically, I think just South Carolina's going to get back to a bowl game. I mean, I think 6 or 7 or 8 wins would be nice. And I also wonder, what is I think anything less than a bowl game probably gets Shane fired next year. But what is the line we draw in the sand of, okay, he's got to get over this amount of wins to have his job secure heading into 2027? Or what's the under?
I think it's a tough question to answer now, because so much is going to change in the offseason about what these teams are. And
that's true.
Again, did we think Vanderbilt was going to be 10-2? Like, that loss does not look bad on your resume now.
At the time, it looked bad.
At the time, it's like, oh, Vanderbilt, okay, I know they were kind of plucky last year, but whatever. No, they're 10-2, and, I mean, they're probably not going to make the playoff, but they at least make a case for themselves to be in it. Like, all right, what if Will Stein at Kentucky is the answer and they go 9-3 next year? Well, that's not a bad loss necessarily. It looks bad that they surpassed you that quickly, but I think it's hard to examine until the season's over and you know what these teams are. I mean, we can safely assume Alabama, Georgia, those teams probably going to be really, really good. A&M's probably going to be really, really good again. Like, Clemson probably has a chance to be really, really good.
Yeah,
themselves.
I expect Clemson to be better next year.
But everybody else is kind of a wild card. Like, you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can easily see about 6 losses on the schedule right now.
Yeah.
I could see them dropping those games to the 4 playoff teams on the schedule, and then you got, Mississippi State could be a toss up. I mean, and who knows how Tennessee's going to look? I mean, what if Josh Heupel? I know he came out yesterday saying that he's staying around at Tennessee and not interested in the Penn State job. But what if he did leave, right? I mean, how would that change things for Tennessee?
And to be fair, at the same time, Carolina can also stand to get better, right? Nobody saw them going from 5-7 to 9-3 from 23 to 24. So you have that opportunity. I don't know if it's going to happen or not because, again, we expected the changes they made this offseason to be good and positive ones, and they weren't. I mean, gosh, none of your offensive linemen really ended up panning out.
Now, I'd be interested to kind of take a look, a player-by-player look at, okay, here's the guy that you had from 2024 that you brought in from the portal, and here's what you had in 2025, and just seeing how much of a drop-off there was with how the portal talent really shaked out.
That might be something to do coming up a little bit
might be the
later on.
task.
Might be so. Some come up later on in the week. We'll take a quick look at men's basketball coming up next to wrap up the hour. Also going to give away some tickets coming up here in a little bit, so stay tuned as the X Point rolls along. It's Red and Jack Beltry with you on your Tuesday on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you here, wrapping up hour number 1 on your Tuesday on the game. We'll get into all the coaching carousel and college football coming up in the next hour. We're also going to talk to Justin Rowland of Cats Illustrated to get some insight in the latest there with Will Stein being hired as the new head coach of Kentucky football after letting go of Mark Stoops on Sunday. But as I mentioned earlier, men's basketball in action tonight as they get set to take on Virginia Tech in the ACC SEC Challenge over at Colonial Life Arena. Tip-off at 7 o'clock and pregame coverage starting at 6:30 right here on the game. And we didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday, Jack, but men's basketball survived a little bit of a scare against Charleston Southern on Black Friday.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't talk about that game because it was a ugly performance for South Carolina. I mean, look, I'll give South Carolina the benefit of the doubt that I think it was an anomaly, hopefully, because you hadn't played since the Sunday of the Greenbrier tip-off, so you had about 5 or so days off. You had Thanksgiving the day before the game.
That dang tramadol.
Yes, that tryptophan.
Tryptophan, that's what it is.
Tryptophan.
Where'd I come up with tramadol? Tryptophan.
Tramadol. Well, yeah, what is
that's some other chemical. The tryptophan, that's what it was.
Tryptophan, as Dan Hurley expressed. So I don't know when South Carolina had their Thanksgiving dinner, but I can imagine it was probably on that Thursday. And also Lamont Paris openly said a surprise around here in the South Carolina athletic space that there was a bad practice, right? So he was very honest and blunt that they just did not have a great practice on that Thursday, the day before the Black Friday game. So all that to be said, I think I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they kind of came out sluggish, didn't look great, and Charleston Southern didn't play particularly well either, but they were able to hang around because South Carolina just wasn't playing their best brand of basketball.
And we know a big part of this offensive identity this year is the ability to shoot from the outside. And when you look at the last 4 games, 2 of those being the losses to Butler and Northwestern, they've been under 30% from outside, including their lowest mark in 20%, 5 of 24 from 3 against Charleston Southern. That seems like that's going to be a bit of an issue for something we thought might be a consistent plus for this offense, where as of late, they haven't been able to hit it quite as frequently.
No, they just have not been good from the outside. It's not even like they're just missing these shots. They're missing a lot of open shots. I think that's the real killer here. And I don't think it's tight rims, as we heard them talk about plenty of times at the Greenbrier. I mean, I think at this point they're back on their normal rims. I think they're just kind of an inconsistent shooting team right now until proven otherwise. So you got shooters on this team. Like, you have Meechie Johnson, who we know can be streaky, but you got him. You got Grant Polk off the bench. You got Norden Kapich, Mike Sharvajumps. Like, you have shooters on this team. Eli Ellis, they're just not shooting particularly well right now, and you kind of hope they get going here soon because this is another quality opponent you're playing tonight, albeit not as tough of an opponent, I don't think, as Butler or Northwestern, but Virginia Tech, I mean, they won their first 6 games, lost their last 2 to St. Mary's and VCU, which are respectable men's college basketball teams that they faced and lost to. So for South Carolina, you're hoping being back at home tonight will help out a good ton.
By the way, worth noting, VCU did shoot 52% from 3 in that game against them the other day, and those were 2 KenPom top 50 teams they lost to. And in terms of like KenPom rankings, this is a pretty comparable opponent. South Carolina's at 89, Virginia Tech is at 76, so not quite to the same level what Butler and Northwestern were. Somebody a little bit closer to you. And again, you made games out of those out of the 2 games against Butler and Northwestern. So getting a win tonight, you got Clemson coming up here in a couple weeks for the usual rivalry game. This would be a good feather in the cap and obviously a quality win to add to your resume too, because you're probably going to need as many of those as possible when it comes to building your resume if you want to make the tournament again.
I would imagine this is probably a higher quad 2 game because it's at home and you're facing a team that's in the top 100 of the KenPom, albeit towards the back half. I will say, though, you mentioned that St. Mary's shot, or was it VCU or St. Mary's that you said shot really well? VCU. Well, they didn't shoot too well at all, VT that is, against either of those teams. 44% against VCU, 31% against St. Mary's. So if you're South Carolina, you're not only hoping you're going to shoot better tonight, hopefully closer to about that 45 to 50% range, you're also hoping you can play well enough defensively to kind of keep Virginia Tech in check and hold them down to hopefully less than 40%. That'd be ideal.
Yeah, and again, it'd be a win against quality opponent and would kind of ease some of the concerns that have cropped up here in these past couple of games. Like, okay, maybe we're not quite where we wanted to be offensively. And again, you're going to need to be on your best offensively for the week in, week out grind of the SEC coming up here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a nice win to get because, I mean, you don't have many quality opponents left in non-con. You have this game, and then you go to Clemson in 2 weeks. And that's really it before SEC play starts on January 3rd. So it's of the utmost importance to find a way to get a win tonight.
Well, if you want to go see the game tonight, I have 2 pairs of tickets to give away right now to callers number 5 and 6 at 803-404-6100. Go over to Colonial Life Arena tonight at 7 o'clock and see men's basketball as they take on Virginia Tech. So, again, callers number 5 and 6 right now at 803-404-6100. We'll get into this coaching carousel. Let's hear from some of the new hires as they got introduced to their teams yesterday around the SEC. That's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyra and Jack Veltri with you here on The Game. All right, here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. If you haven't looked outside yet, it's been raining quite a bit, and if you have an open cry space under your home and recently experienced a storm, you could have standing water underneath your home, which I don't have to tell you is a very, very bad thing. That can lead to a litany of problems with your home, including affecting the air that you breathe, because about half the air in your crawl space half the air in your home comes from your crawl space, and that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyfoundation.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your crawl space issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live worry-free going forward. Don't let that moisture lead to things like wood rot and floor joist problems that can affect your home. Again, go online to schedule an appointment at cantyconvicts.com. Let our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist help you out with your foundation and crawl space needs. All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. It's our head, Jack Belcher, Chris Clark joining us now. Good Tuesday morning, Chris. How we doing?
Doing well, guys. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good as always. Been
Cold and rainy.
What's that?
Cold and rainy.
Yes, very cold and rainy. Disgusting. Nasty. Hate it.
Hate it.
It's not going to get any warmer anytime soon based on what the weather app is telling me.
Mm-hmm. Very
So,
true. We're
get
now
used to
fully in it. Yep.
It's winter, all right. Man, what a crazy weekend. We spent so much time yesterday focusing on South Carolina and Clemson, touched a little bit on the other games that happened, but I've never seen so many coaches. This might be a record. So many coaches get hired in one day, just in college football in general, but specifically in one conference. We had 5 coach hirings happen on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be a record.
Well, to the extent where in a lot of coaching cycles, what day was Pat Fitzgerald hired? Monday?
Yeah, he was
I think
hired
officially maybe
yesterday.
Monday.
Yeah, because it had been rumored on Sunday
Yes.
that they were like he was
And it
getting
happened.
zeroed in, and then Monday I think it became official. I don't know if Michigan State's officially made it official, but I know
Officially official.
Yeah, like the final confirmation.
The graphic.
But like I think Pete Thamel put it out. I think On3's put it out.
It's happening. It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
But the point is, like, in a lot of cycles, that would be, Michigan State, you know, Big Ten, like, that's been a good job in the past, and now it's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Lane
Like-
Kiffin. You know?
Like Bob Chesney's going to go to UCLA. That's a really good hire. That's a program that you can have success at. And it's like nobody's talking about it.
Nobody's talking about it.
No.
It's kind of strange, but yeah, just a wild carousel. I thought that we'll go to some of the quote unquote bigger names and bigger jobs. Thought it was a little weird that Jim Moore went to Colorado State.
Yeah.
Nothing against the folks over there. No disrespect.
Sure. It
Don't disrespect the Rams.
seems like a lateral move. If not, maybe kind of a step back.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could get on board with step back. I can get on board with lateral ish. It's like if it's a ladder, it's like you're either just in the middle of it, standing there
Sure.
in no man's land, or you're like you've moved up one rung. It just I don't know. I thought he would maybe have a little bit more traction on some bigger jobs. Now, this cycle, obviously, there are a lot of big jobs. I don't think any of them are going to hire Jim Mora Jr., but I don't know. I just thought Colorado State's been a fine job in the past. Like, some people gone there and won some games.
Sure.
But it's not like, I don't know. I thought with what he did at UConn, of all places, that he would get a little more traction.
Yeah, and I think we looked this up recently. Isn't he like 65, like mid 60s?
He looks young.
He looks young.
But he looks
but-
great
oh,
but yeah, I forget that sometimes. Like, he's
Yeah.
a little older, so guys, they want to go a little younger maybe.
And it might just kind of be one of those things because, again, he's been at UCLA. He's coached in the NFL. He's done the big jobs and faced all that pressure. And maybe he's in a situation who's like, you know what? I just want to coast this thing out. I'm going to coach football for another, 5-6 years, get paid a lot of money, and not have insane expectations.
Yeah.
And you know what? UConn and Colorado State are two good places for that.
Yeah, I mean, both of them will make coaching changes. It's not like you could go there and just kind of not do anything and expect to stick around. Colorado State's made multiple coaching changes in the last several years, but Mike Bobo was there,
That's right.
But they there is certainly less pressure than UCLA where he was in the past or some of these other big jobs. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Tyler, just an absolutely wild carousel, and it's been fun to track all that. And there's plenty more still to track because now you've advanced at places like Auburn and LSU and Ole Miss, all at Florida, to now. Okay, what does this thing look like? And we're all sitting here going, who made the best hire? Who made the worst hire? How are these guys going to do? And kind of trying to project all that. It kind of moves to a different phase, but it's a fun phase too.
Yeah, it is, and most
Kentucky.
most of these guys, and we'll get to Kentucky a little bit more in a minute with Justin Rowland of Cats Illustrated, because that was kind of the 11th hour thing, right? Because I think we all thought, and Jack, you and I have talked about it plenty, like, okay, this Stoops thing, it's going in the wrong direction. They're they should make a move, but maybe they won't because this is such a wide open cycle with so many jobs being open. And then Sunday, it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, Kentucky's going to fire Mark Stoops. Like, what? Oh, they hired Will Stein. Okay. Like, if you took a long enough nap, you missed all that.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised that it randomly just happened. I mean, Sunday was just crazy with how much just occurred throughout the day. But, yeah, I mean, I think Kentucky was – I don't know what the thought process was behind waiting this long. I think if Kentucky had made a bowl game, maybe you keep Stoops going into next year just because of how many coaches were getting plucked away in this carousel, and a lot of them had already been hired. But losing 41-0 against Louisville to miss a bowl game was probably the nail in the coffin. And you go out here and you make what seems to be a pretty good hire, a guy that has connections to the state of Kentucky, grew up a Kentucky fan. I mean, this kind of feels eerily similar to when Kentucky basketball hired Mark Pope to be their head coach after Calipari was let go. So I think this has all the opportunity to be the right move for Kentucky, a program that's, I would assume, going to be in a rebuild phase for the next few years. And you get a guy in Will Stein that I think could really do some good things, especially from a development standpoint, the quarterback position.
So I don't know if Will Stein's going to get introduced today or in the next couple of days or whatever. We did hear from a couple of the coaches yesterday at the introductory pressers, and I don't know, maybe Alex Golesh had maybe the statement of the day at Auburn.
What you're going to get from me, from our staff, and as we get rolling, our players, is the hardest working, toughest, grittiest program in the entire country. We're going to work day in, day out. We're going to find wins in every single margin we could find. We're going to be the most violent freaking team on the football field every single Saturday.
Most violent team on the football field every single Saturday.
Freaking.
Little Dan Campbell in him.
I was about to say, breaking kneecaps.
I mean, that's what you want your coach to say, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would imagine that every coach, John Summerall did his presser at Florida. I did not watch the full thing, but from the clips I saw and some of the chatter on social media, knocked it out of the park. Everybody
won the press conference.
Alex Golesh also said he does not play a lot of golf.
Yes.
Which people wanted to hear also. Probably the number one thing they wanted to hear.
That was probably as he's walking upstairs.
How much golf?
Like, hey, you should probably address how much golf you play.
Yeah,
that's a big deal here.
Big win.
What a question that was asked. I'm like, wow, of course that would be asked.
Yeah, so, I mean, all these guys won the press conferences, right? And I think we know that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Remember when Nick Sirianni from the Eagles in the NFL, his first press conference? Mm-hmm. It was horrific.
Yeah. He's not a very polished guy.
He's done fine.
He's done really good.
This year they've been disappointing, but
seems
whatever.
like they're still ready to run him out of town, even coming off of a Super Bowl.
That's
but
Philly.
Yeah, that is Philly.
I mean, that's how it is. So what do y'all think of the Golesh hire at Auburn?
It makes a lot of sense. And I don't know. Maybe I'm surprised that so many, really all the SEC hires, with the exception of LSU, have gone G5, with the exception of, I guess, Kentucky going OC at Oregon. I kind of thought of Florida or LSU or Florida or Auburn would end up plucking somebody, but I guess like Drinkwitz's got his extension, Rule got an extension. A lot of these guys at Clark Lee that seem like viable candidates all got, extensions where they're at. So maybe it was kind of like, do I think Alex Golesh was Auburn's first choice? No, but I mean, he turned around South Florida pretty quickly. And I do think there's something to be said for that. And that's an Auburn program that kind of needs to be built back up. And he seems like a guy that has the ability to do that. If
they give him the time and the resources to get that thing right, I think Auburn could be competitive in a few years. I don't know how much patience Auburn necessarily has to wait this thing out and see if it's going to get turned around. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on, what players you're bringing in. I mean, are you bringing in a lot of players from South Florida? We know they're bringing in a few coaches from South Florida. I mean, I don't know. It just really depends. But I can honestly see that. I think there are better hires in this cycle. But for Auburn and what they're trying to accomplish, I think this is probably a good fit.
Well, the interesting thing is, again, where we're looking at 6 hirings being made in the SEC, almost half the league is going to look brand new in terms of who's going to be their head coach coming up next year. Statistically speaking, I don't know, maybe 2 of these guys make it to like year 4, year 5. But more often than not, as we've kind of seen, most of these guys are going to get fired and they're going to be looking for another head coach in basically 4 to 5 years. Who that is, I don't know. But it is, with this cluster of hires to be made in like 2030, who are going to be saying, yep, that worked, and who are going to be saying, nah, looking for another guy.
I think the Arkansas one might be with Silverfield from Memphis. That might be, because again, it seemed like they had Golish hired, right? Like that had been reported out there that they were finalizing a deal, and that it just never happened. And now he's at Auburn, and they get Silverfield. And did we talk about recently that Arkansas spends the least amount of money on football in the SEC?
I think John Bryce told us that a couple weeks ago.
Even though they have the Walmart money, the Tyson chicken money, I mean, I don't know why that. I'm kind of surprised that's the case, considering it seems like they put a lot of money into basketball and baseball and have been pretty successful with that. But football, for whatever reason, just hasn't worked out there at Arkansas. So it's already a really tough job as a result of that. And I could see Silverfield probably being what would turn out to be the worst hire of this cycle, but we'll see.
It's been interesting looking at, I mean, Arkansas people are ticked.
Yeah, they were protesting.
Yeah, and part of it was because, you know, I think generally they just had designs on let's go hire a big-time guy.
Everybody does.
Everybody does. Part of it was, like you said, Jack, they knew that Golish was out there, and they were kind of under the impression of, like, this is happening, and some people liked it and some people didn't. And then when you, like, publicly miss on your top target or a target, you know, and then you also hear, I mean, it was reported that they had interviewed, like, I might botch the number. I feel like it's like 20 candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they interviewed a lot of people.
Well,
and then
they fired Pittman forever ago, so they've had a lot of time. Silverfield has not had, like, the best, you know, year in Memphis. And some, you know, so it is what it is. You know, heck, maybe in a few years he's the best hire of all of them. Who knows? You know, there's certainly going to be a lot of turnover, so that means a lot of data, you know, that's going to be coming out in the next few years on how all these guys do. It'll be interesting to see, you know, where it lands, how many are successful. Not everybody can win big. Yeah.
So some of them in a few years are going to be fired, and some of them will be doing okay, and some of them will be on the hot seat in year 4 or maybe before.
Well, for Silverfield and Stein as well, and again, we'll talk with Justin Rowland coming up here in a minute from Cats Illustrated, like, they don't have to go out there and win the national championship. You know what I mean? Like, that'd be great for their fan base if they did, but, like, that's not what the exact expectation is. If they want you to be competitive, make the playoff eventually, but you don't have to do that right away, as opposed to, like, Florida and Auburn. It's like, hey, we win championships around here. Let's get this going, bud. You got 2 years, or else we're going to put you on the hot seat. Like, Silverfield and Stein may actually end up lasting longer because the expectations aren't quite as high at those places.
Like, they should be there at least 4 years, right? Unless it's like
Disaster, like Chad Morris bad at Arkansas.
Like 2 wins in each of the first 2 years. Okay, then I can understand moving on from those guys. But if it's like borderline getting to a bowl game, even making a bowl game, like, that's okay for those programs because they all missed bowl games this year. So it's like, I mean, the only way from here is up. And so I think you got to give those guys time to really get it right if they have those goals of one day reaching a national championship.
So the Mark Stoops firing is perhaps the most intriguing with how it all went down here in the past couple of days. We'll dive into that coming up next with Justin Rowland of Cats Illustrated as the Gamecock Club Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Schooling and Heating, rolls on your Tuesday here on The Game.
All right, everyone. One of our great partners here on the game is Classic Roofing. Here to tell you about the fine folks over at Classic Roofing. All the time here on the program, Joe Reeder, Max Sawyer, running the show over at Classic Roofing. Families that live right here in the Midlands, so you know when you work with Classic Roofing, you're going to get a local, reliable company who knows exactly what they're doing. Reliable GAF certified roofer. Only about 7% of roofers nationwide have that certification. They can do everything that you may need at your home or your business in terms of roofing inspections, installations, repairs. You can even visualize what your new roof may look like. Go over to classicroofingsc.com, use their GAF virtual design tool, check it out. You could also get a free estimate. Inspections, installations, replacements, repairs, each roof carefully worked on by a group of top industry professionals. classicroofingsc.com or 803-590-7870.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Ed, Jack Belcher, Chris Clark along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Going over the crazy coaching carousel in college football that kicked into another gear with hirings being made and a late firing as well. That being Mark Stoops being let go by Kentucky on Sunday and Will Stein pretty quickly being hired from the offensive coordinator position at Oregon. Joining us now on the AAA Heat and Air phone lines to detail everything going on up in Cat Country is Justin Rowland. Justin, first of all, appreciate you taking your time. How you doing today, man?
It's a busy time, but I'm doing well. It's actually a nice little break here to stop and pause and get out of the rat race. But, we got Kentucky, North Carolina tonight and a new football coach.
Yeah, that's a pretty busy day up there in Lexington, Kentucky, that's for sure. Look, this Mark Stoops thing's been so interesting over the last couple of years, and I think we all knew his seat was among the warmest in the SEC, but everybody kept looking at that big buyout. As we sit here on December 2nd, as you're getting ready to introduce a new head coach, was it the timing right? Did they wait too long? Was it not soon enough? Where do you fall on the decision to move on from him?
I think it's pretty clear that the fan base was ready to move on, and I think some of the donors and the board were ready to move on. It had gotten toxic for a while, but the athletics director was responsible for that contract. And, I understand why he was it was so important to keep Stoops, but Mitch Barnhart is not the kind of guy that seemed like he was going to want to pay $38 million or whatever it was. When they won 3 straight games, they beat Auburn at Auburn. They wiped out Florida by 31, and then they beat Tennessee Tech. That put them at 5-5, and it looked like they might be bowl bound. And at that point, it's like, well, they've improved from the previous season. Maybe they are going to get this thing figured out. Certainly don't want to pay upwards of $40 million if they're moving in the right direction. But then the losses to Vanderbilt and Louisville were just so bad. It prompted the kind of outcry and the response that wiped out any of the good that had come during that 3-game winning streak. And I think that forced the athletics director's hand, and that was the reason for the timetable being what it was.
Justin, we'll get to, as Chris, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you as always. We'll get to Will Stein here and how that all came about and your thoughts on that. But let's give a little bit of a retrospective from the Stoops era. It kind of seems like to me now that it's over, that maybe the Kentucky fan base has moved on from the anger and the desire to get out of this thing to like, all right, now we can look back and see that was good, right? Like it went bad at the end. Stoops did some good thing. There's appreciation now. They'll probably, with time heals all wounds type of thing. Like there'll be more appreciation. A, do you agree with that? And B, why do you think it did go bad in these last few years?
Yeah, I think your assessment is spot on. Like, time rehabilitates people who have done a lot less than Mark Stoops. Kentucky fans lived through a lot of decades of just not mattering at all in football, really being a source of embarrassment. And they know, people that grew up now, people that lived through the crap before Stoops, they know what Stoops did for the program. The problem is they were just stuck in a downward trajectory, working against momentum with no real hope or optimism for the future for about 3 or 4 years, 4 straight years of disappointing record. And those were reasonable expectations the fan base carried into those seasons, commensurate with the contract that Stoops had been given. And then you had the fact that basketball was struggling. Kentucky fans are pretty reasonable people, I feel like, and they're not always given that reputation. Tubby Smith is beloved in Lexington. Mark Stoops is going to be beloved in Lexington. It's just when you're in the middle of it and you're watching Indiana number 2 and Missouri win 29 games over 3 years and Vanderbilt right on the cusp of the playoff discussion, it was just too much of a highlighter that this program is not moving in the right direction.
Hey, Justin, it's Jack Velcher here. Appreciate you joining us. I can't help but feel like this hire feels a little bit similar to the vibes around when Mark Pope was hired after Calipari left because of the Kentucky connections. And Will Stein is from Louisville, played at Louisville. My first question is a 2-part question here. I mean, how do they feel? How do the fans feel about Kentucky hiring a Louisville alum first off, and then also with a guy that has the bluegrass roots there of being from that state?
That is a unique thing. We've seen crossover in the rivalry before. We've seen Kenny Payne bounce back and forth with Kentucky and Louisville. We've seen more recently Vince Morrow, Mark Stoops' right-hand man, flipping over to Louisville. But it is a little bit odd. Kentucky fans will be quick to point out that Stein was always a Kentucky fan growing up. He went to over 100 Kentucky football games as a kid. It was just happenstance that he ended up going to Louisville. And if it was a standalone choice, 1-to-1, Kentucky or Louisville, I feel like there's a good chance Kentucky would have gotten. Both of his parents are alums from there. But I'm with you. I think it's similar to the push to to make the fan base feel like the program belongs to them again. They felt like they weren't heard for the last few years when Stoops' interest in keeping it going were not aligned with the fan base's interest. And with Calipari flipping to Pope, it was all, we're the name on the front now, we're not the name on the back. So that's definitely an athletics department messaging thing. And I think it's also similar in some ways to Liam Cohen. Remember, Liam Cohen is the one offensive coordinator that really came in and succeeded in spite of Mark Stoops' approach to complementary football. And he fits the bill. Young, very bright, X's and O's, great track record with quarterbacks. This is where the sport is moving, and that's why they made the hire.
I was just about to ask, and talking to Justin Rowland of Cats Illustrated, how important it is they went out and got an offensive coach, given the fact that, and again, Stoops was the longest tenured coach in the SEC prior to being fired. You had a defensive guy at the helm for so long. The offense had its moments with guys like Liam Cohen, but mainly had been kind of up and down, and more recently had kind of been towards the bottom. The importance of going out there and hiring a young offensive mind like Will Stein to take over.
Yeah, it wasn't essential. I'm not one of those people who ever thinks in terms of they need to go get an NFL guy, or they need to get a G5 head coach, or they need to get a power conference coordinator. For me, it's about the man, right? You're really hiring the man. You're not hiring his last job description. But, yeah, one of the parts of fan frustration has been a general ineptitude on offense for a really long time, or offense not used for aggressively trying to go out and win games, but more clock management and setting the defense up to succeed. When you're not winning, that becomes a little bit boring, and the boring added on top of the losing makes it doubly bad for people who are going through it. So it wasn't essential to get an offensive guy in terms of the overall plan, but it'll make the fan base really happy. And, people old enough to remember when Kentucky was air raid and offense identity will probably be happy with Stein's approach.
All right, so Justin, let's kind of close this loop. But what do you think the expectations will be? Just on, this Kentucky fan base obviously extremely well. You've been at this thing for a while. What will they expect? Big things next year? Do they feel like, hey, we're close on the roster, we just got to get the right guy? Do they recognize this kind of a rebuild? And we got about a couple minutes before hard break. But what do you think in terms of year one expectations for Stein?
Yeah, I think people are going to be realistic. It's not the job that Mark Stoops took over in 2012. It's much better than that in spite of the results at the end of the season. But they were 4-8 and 5-7 over the last two seasons. And next year's team has games against Alabama, LSU, at Missouri, at Oklahoma, at South Carolina, at Tennessee, at Texas A&M. So they got 5 conference road games. They draw Alabama and some really tough assignments. So I really don't think the fan base is going to be hung up on the overall win total. If he doesn't make a bowl, it wouldn't be a change from the previous 2 years. I think the smart thing and what most Kentucky fans will do now that they're happy that a change has been made is to measure the progress of the offense. Does it look like the offense is moving in the right direction for the future? And Stoops actually did leave him a lot of good young defensive pieces in the program to build around. So even if this year's National Signing Day is a wash, they do have some young pieces to keep a core intact.
Justin, man, we appreciate it as always. We'll let you get back to what I'm sure is a very busy day up there where you're at.
Very busy. You guys know it. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Justin Rowland there of Cats Illustrated. And by the way, Kentucky, a permanent opponent. You will see them every single year as the Will Stein era begins in 2026. We'll get into what else happened around the college football world coming up next as we continue on with the Garnet Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, y'all, our friends over at Integrated Media, you know that they are our preferred, the only one-stop shop tech partner that we use here on the Game. They can help you with any tech-related issues, problems, or installations that you want to do at your home or at your business. If you've had issues with your home's Wi-Fi, know that you're not alone. Most people have had it. Wes had some problems at his home a while back, wanting to make sure with everything we do at GamecockCentral.com and here on the show, need to make sure that his Wi-Fi was running as fast and reliable as possible. Michael, Nathan, their team came out, helped him with that. They've come out to my home to mount TVs, help us put our video games on a switcher, all sorts of stuff. They can do that and so much more for you. They can source the equipment for you. They can install it professionally for you. You don't have to go to the big box stores. They've got local showroom in Chapin, great customer service. They know what they're doing. IntegratedMediaInc.com or give them a call, 803-948-8327.
What kind of statement do you think that made to the committee?
Well, I think this. If you really look at the body of work and you look at the Southeastern Conference and what we have to go through every week, you look at the non-conference schedule we play to go to Ohio State in week 1 and lose by 7 when we outgained them by nearly 200 yards. We got a really good football team, and it would be a disservice to our sport if this team's not a playoff team when we went and scheduled that non-conference game. Because if we're a 10-2 team, it's not a question. But we were willing to go play that game. So is that what college football is about? Don't play anybody and just have a good record, or play the best and put the best teams in the playoff, and we're one of the best teams.
Welcome back in. It's the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. That was the voice of Steve Sarkisian, head coach of the Texas Longhorns, after defeating their rival, the previously undefeated and number 3 team in the country, Texas A&M. And oh boy, the college football playoff rankings, The Real Show, is made for TV. I cannot wait to see what happens tonight because somebody's going to be upset. Some fan base can be very angry from being on the outside looking in because as we head into conference championship weekend, as they told us last year, because typically in the 14 playoff era, most of the teams involved in the playoff bubble were at least involved in conference championships or they had the opportunity to win their way in. In the 12-team era, we know most of these teams aren't going to have any other games to play. No further data points. As we learned last year with South Carolina, according to the committee, you can't improve because you don't play. So Texas, that was their final data point, was beating A&M. And if they're on the outside looking in tonight, they're probably not going to make the playoff. And again, that creates this whole other conversation of, do you schedule good outside of the conference? Do you need to beat the teams like Florida in your conference? Does 10-2 look better than 9-3, depending on who that out-of-conference loss is? A whole lot of debate set to go tonight, depending on where Texas is.
It's tough to say what Texas's fate should truly be because they have one of the more interesting arguments of any of these bubble teams. Like, they have 3 of the best quality wins you could have. They beat Oklahoma pretty handedly. They beat Vanderbilt, another team that is looking to make the college football playoff, and they beat Texas A&M, who was a top 3 team in the country last week. So all the quality wins you want right there. However, they do have 3 losses, and we can't ignore that. They lost to Ohio State, lost to Florida, which is a really bad loss to have on the schedule, and then got beat by 25 against Georgia. So it's tough to say what's going to happen. Texas was, 16 in the rankings last week? You're talking about needing to jump up a few spots. It's possible, but I just if a 9-3 team is going to get in, it would be Texas, but I don't know. And I think it sets a bad precedent, I think, if Texas doesn't get in, because it's like, oh, then what's the point in even scheduling a tough out-of-conference opponent? Because, look, if Texas just scheduled another random school like a Rice or somebody from the state of Texas that's a G5 school, they're 10-2 right now, and this isn't even a discussion.
Well, they still would have had to have scheduled a Power 4 because that's a requirement. You got to have at least one Power 4
good point.
out of conference. But they could have gotten like Purdue, right? They could have scheduled Purdue instead of Ohio State, beat them pretty handily. They're 10-2, and they're in. It's also important to remember the line right now is 10. Alabama is the 10th team in, or 10th team ranked right now. They are in. BYU is on the outside looking in. Now BYU will have an opportunity to win their way in by virtue of the conference championship. But Texas would realistically need to vault from 16th all the way up to 10th to realistically say they're probably going to get in the playoff.
Big jump.
Big jump.
In 1 week. Now you got a big win, though.
Yeah, huge
so
win.
How much does that change the calculus? You know, it's kind of interesting if you compare them to the 3 lost teams from last year. It was South Carolina. They were certainly right on the line, as was Bama and Ole Miss. Gamecocks last year, you know, that was a lot of the conversation. South Carolina had a very difficult schedule, as we know, and they lost 3 games, all to ranked teams. One of them on the road, 2 of them at home, one of them by 3 points, one of them by 2 points. You had one stinker in there at home against an Ole Miss team. 2 of the teams that you lost to ended up being in the top 14, 13.
Well, they were right ahead of you.
Right ahead of you.
Yeah.
13, 14, 15, South Carolina, and those other 2. But the Gamecocks had some other points that, you know, in theory were data points that didn't really get as considered, and that was, you didn't have your starting quarterback in the back half of one of those games, LSU. He missed the next game that they won, and then he was still banged up in the worst game of the season against Ole Miss. And then another data point, you won 6 straight games. So no matter what the schedule was, you were hot at the end of the year. You beat 3 top 25 teams, including 2 top 12 teams at that time, and still got left out. You know, you look at Texas, they have this year, and not this committee won't be exactly the same. They're saying they've made some adjustments and all that. But you're right, Jack. They have a worse loss than even South Carolina had last year. You look at Bama and not Oklahoma. If you look at Bama and Ole Miss last year, they had worse losses than South Carolina, but they had the head-to-head advantage, right? So this thing is really tough. I mean, yes, you have a loss to a Florida team that was not very good this year, but your other two losses were to a really good Georgia team who is in the college football playoff as of now. The problem, as you said, Jack, you lost by 25. Not even close.
Not close.
The other one is by maybe the best team in the country by 7 in the opener against Ole Miss. So there's just a lot to consider, man. And I'm getting us a little off track. I'm taking the focus off Texas, and I want to let us close that loop.
Okay.
Have y'all seen Chris Felica on Twitter stumping for Miami over Oklahoma? This is very strange to me.
Why not Miami over Notre Dame?
Yeah, what are his points?
Well, I'll pull them up for you, but he's saying that basically Oklahoma isn't good offensively, and he's pulling out metrics from Miami's last season. It's more of a comparison, not to necessarily this year Miami versus Oklahoma. His case is more Oklahoma shouldn't be in because Miami got left out last year. That's kind of the general premise of it. The big problem is that he's not really considering the schedule at all. Miami 2024, 10-2, 3 wins by 7 points or fewer. The number 2 offense with the number 1 draft pick, that doesn't matter.
That has no
the
bearing
draft
on
pick,
this.
who cares? A bad defense, no conference title game, and he says no playoff and they shouldn't have been in. So his point is Oklahoma shouldn't be in this year because they're also 10-2. They've won 4 games by 7 or fewer as opposed to 3. Their defense is number 4, but their offense is bad, so flip-flop those, right?
Yeah, it makes no
And they didn't make their conference title game. The problem is Miami didn't play anybody last year.
Right.
I went through, I literally, I think maybe Syracuse was ranked when they played them.
Yeah. But
They lost. But they lost. I don't think Miami beat a ranked team last year, whereas Oklahoma
Let's see.
has played ranked teams, won ranked games, and lost ranked games. So, I don't know. This is kind of a George Stoya from the On3 Oklahoma site said, "Do you need help? DM me." Like, this is just a very strange campaign that he's on right now.
Also, look, there's analytics to back up any kind of argument. When you're having to go to the Sagarin ratings, that most people have no clue what those are to defend your point, I think we've gone down a little bit too far of a road here.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma to me should be in based on the resume.
They should be.
And you certainly can't compare them to 2024 Miami. That's not even that's not an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, well, and again, Miami had their opportunity. If they hadn't lost to Syracuse in the last week of the regular season, they would have been in. Like
no ranked wins on that schedule, by the way.
Comparatively, LSU was on Oklahoma was on the ropes against LSU, but they found a way to win the game. Yeah. Their offense hasn't really been pretty since John Mateer got back, but they've won more than they've lost, including beating teams like Alabama in the process. Like, their resume kind of speaks for itself. Like, they don't have to play this weekend because we know they're in. Yeah, they're probably going to be, I don't know if they're going to be hosting or go on the road for a playoff game or not, but, like, I don't expect Oklahoma to go anywhere. Like, they're locked in.
They are. And even if you say Oklahoma shouldn't make it, okay, make your argument, but don't compare them to 2024 Miami. Like, it's not even close. Anyway, I didn't mean to get us off track of Texas. Texas had me thinking of Oklahoma, and I'm like, I just saw it on Twitter. It's very strange.
And look, Felica's a really smart guy. This doesn't really kind of seem like the hill he's willing to die on type thing.
Like a directive from up top or something. You know, there's been some conspiracies about that.
He works for Fox now, not ESPN.
That's right.
ESPN just tells coaches to take other jobs. That's right. At the end of the day. Speaking of which, that'll lead to some of our oddities coming up next as we wrap up the hour. Because, oh boy, there's quite a few of them on and off the field. Coming up next as we wrap up the hour, Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating here on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling Heating. Tyred, Jack Beltry, Chris Clark along with you, wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday. Time for the oddities of college football, and my goodness, there were quite a few. And, of course, we got to start with the Lane Kiffin saga as he, of course, departed Oxford on Sunday to Baton Rouge to be introduced as LSU's head coach yesterday. And, well, a few things got left behind, including his rack of clothes. I'm assuming were in his office. And, well, if you're going to LSU, you don't really need the blue or powder blue and white or whatever Ole Miss stuff you have. Your come to the sip T-shirts, your big chains and all those kind of things. So what happened? They just left it on the street.
Jimbo Fisher's Christmas tree has been replaced by Lane Kiffin's rack of clothes now.
And what's going on with the whole situation with his dog?
Apparently,
Juice
Juice wasn't his.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest, shocker of this whole thing. The
Yeah.
dog wasn't even his.
Yeah.
He was tweeting, pretending to be online.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't. So, but the whole clothes thing is very funny. I mean, he got fired on the tarmac years ago, and now his clothes are being left out in the street.
I think Saturday, or Sunday, was also a perfect embodiment of how much it means in the SEC. It just means more being the tagline of the conference. When you saw the woman holding the baby at the airport there to shout expletives at Lane Kiffin as he was getting on the plane.
Baby won't remember it.
The baby won't remember, but it's going to be one of those things that years from now, hey, you were there. And you don't remember, you were there.
I took you, hey, you don't remember this, but when you were 6 months old, I took you to give Lane Kiffin the bird.
That's going to be a fun fact that he tells his college class in 18 years. Tell me something about yourself. I was the baby at Lane Kiffin's departure from Oxford.
Where will Lane Kiffin be in 18 years?
That's a loaded question.
He'll probably, I would imagine, still be coaching because he probably won't even be 70 yet.
How much trouble can he get in the next 18 years is the better question.
A lot.
So we're entering into the winter months now, which means it's going to start snowing in a lot of places. And on Saturday, in the Division III playoffs, Hanover paid a visit to North Central College in Illinois. It snowed a lot during this game that kicked off early in the afternoon. And, when you're at the Division III level, you don't have as many resources as FBS, FCS, maybe even Division II. So, who had to shovel some of the snow off the field in between plays? The backups for North Carolina Central, the guys that weren't dressed out but had the jersey on over the hoodie and sweatpants, they were out there shoveling snow in between plays because, you're not doing anything. Get out there and shovel some snow.
Got to be useful somehow.
I guess.
That was like when the dude from the College World Series last year, was it Murray State? He supposedly mowed the field.
Yeah, the coach.
But then he said he didn't.
But it became it became a thing. Man, that guy's doing it all himself.
He's making, whatever at Murray State. Hey, I mean, yeah, you don't have extensive you don't have a snowplow staff
and
in D3.
I went back and looked at some of this game. There were maybe 30 people in the stands. It wasn't a well-attended game, so the resources of people helping you out were not high. By the way, North Central College won 38-6 to advance in the next round of the Division III
Undefeated
playoffs.
this year.
Undefeated. Good season.
Shout out to the Cardinals.
I love a little bit of history. Texas Tech went on the road and beat West Virginia 49-0 on Saturday. This was West Virginia's largest home loss since 1891. I want you two to guess who the team that beat West Virginia and Morgantown by more than 49 points was.
Well, I just looked it up.
Dang it. Chris, you guessed.
You said it was 1891?
1891. Take a guess.
You got to think of a completely obsolete school.
It's obscure.
Yeah, that was one of what's the one where was it Georgia Tech had the biggest victory ever in college football?
222-0.
Who was that school?
Cumberland.
Okay.
Cumberland had disbanded their football team the year before, by the way.
Okay. What year was that?
1916.
Yes.
Okay.
This school does exist, though.
It still exists.
Still exists.
Yes, I don't believe they have a football team.
I will give a hint.
Okay. Please give me a hint.
It is a two-part name. It is named after, I'm assuming named after two U.S. presidents.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, Tyler. I don't know. Don't make me look bad. I mean, I already look bad.
It's Washington and Jefferson. They came into Morgan. This is the only game West Virginia played that year. They had one game in 1891, and they lost 72 to nothing.
November 28th.
There was a.
By the way, they almost beat them on the exact day too, because Saturday was the 29th.
So
Almost.
What year anniversary are we talking about?
134 years.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I got irrationally upset the other night. Speaking of West Virginia, I was at my mom's house in Irmo, and Jeopardy was on during Thanksgiving, and they had a question they had some college athletics questions, and they were like, what's the name of this city that this campus? And they showed West Virginia's football stadium. I'm like, Morgantown. Nobody knew. I'm like, y'all know the name of a king from like the 1600s.
Those people in Jeopardy know everything but basic sports questions.
Just nothing.
It's like, hey, what's the name of the team in Kansas City? The Bobcats? No. Learn. Then you can win. I don't know. That'll do it for the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling Heating. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour up next here on your Tuesday on the Game.
All right, everybody, let's close out the hour by telling you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating, KRANTZ, Cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com. You hear about them all the time here on the program. They're the presenting sponsor on Tuesdays and Thursdays of the Garnet Trust Hour. They can take care of any of your home or business's HVAC needs, air conditioning, heating, indoor air quality. They have financing options available, and you can check all of it out on KrantzCooling.com. Again, that's KRANTZ, Cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com. You can text them directly from their website. Check out their Google reviews. Since 1983, the local family-owned folks over at Krantz Cooling and Heating have been helping people just like me. That's who I trust to come out to my home to help me with all of my HVAC needs. They just got an issue that I had at the house fixed up recently. 803-672-3224, KrantzCooling.com. Call them today.
Welcome in, 11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Ed, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell will be along with us here in a moment as I guess we kind of put the final thoughts and touches on what happened on Saturday and then get set to truly move into the offseason. Tomorrow's early signing day. Looking to sign another top 20 class tomorrow. Maybe some flips going to be happening as well that you guys will certainly be on top of over the course of the next 24 hours. Got an OC hire to make coming up here relatively soon. Other staff changes to ponder, and now, unfortunately, another 9 months till we see them on the field again against an unnamed opponent. We still don't know who they're playing in week number 1.
Parts unknown.
Yes.
Yeah, that's been a common question. I do not know who it's going to be. You got to. Yeah, I'm sure they're working on that. I just haven't heard.
Because typically those things get done pretty quickly. Like, we brought this up earlier when Alabama canceled with West Virginia. ECU was like, boom, signed right away, and all right, done. Now we're like, it's been like a month. We still don't know who they're playing.
No ECU here.
No,
they're playing pretty well right now.
Yeah,
they seem to be doing okay.
You could have their offensive coordinator. Maybe, maybe.
Don't get me started on that rant, Tyler.
I know the rumor mill was spinning quite a bit on Sunday with, he's on the plane. He's coming here. It's done
right.
Deal.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, there was literally a post on our forum, on the Insiders Forum, like, where's the news? I thought it was a done deal. I'm like, who said it was a done deal? You know,
because Jim Bob on Twitter with 4 followers said so.
I wish the Twitter egg still existed. That was so funny.
Yeah, what is your profile picture now if you don't have anything?
I don't even know. I think you have to have one, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't think they have the egg anymore.
Yeah,
though.
I haven't encountered an egg account in a very long time.
And you can tell where people are posting from now.
That's right.
They're in another country.
All the
bots.
The women that try an engagement farm. It's like, it's in Serbia.
That was a good way to put
Florida.
it.
Yeah, that was the most safe for radio way I could put it.
Yeah, yes, that was smart. Tyler, I have a I meant to ask you about this earlier.
Okay.
So I'm just going to do it because, I mean, I'm sure you have some kind of agenda, but it is related to the Clemson-Carolina game somewhat, putting a bow on it.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw, I put this story out on Twitter. Do you mind if I tell it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, a lot of focus on football right now. I'm going to go a little bit away from the football field, but it is related to this weekend. Some of you may have seen this story that I passed around on the site and on Twitter yesterday. It's getting passed around social media a lot. And story not even related to football from the rivalry weekend. So, obviously, rivalry game on Saturday, but a kind of a cool off-the-field story that was really amazing. So there's a Clemson fan who lives in the state named Tron Foster, 23 years old, been dealing with cancer since I think he was about 6 years old, so 17 years or so, and through a mutual friend who knew the family, he really wanted to get Tron Foster to a football game. He hadn't been doing well. He wanted to get him to a Clemson game. My understanding is he'd never been to a Clemson game, never been to a tailgate, anything like that. And so this person called up a big Gamecock fan and a great man and a big supporter of South Carolina athletics named Russ Lloyd. Shout out to Russ. He said, "Hey, would you mind, having Tron, to your tailgate and kind of entertaining him during the game?" And so Russ graciously agreed to do it, and then went above and beyond as he typically does. How can we make this thing more special? And so got him sideline passes, families down, and he really wanted to help him have the opportunity to talk to Dabo Swinney before the game. Again, Tron, big Clemson fan. And so they couldn't really get like a confirmation with everything going on leading up to, in the days before the game. I don't know how long the runway was, but Russ worked with somebody at the Gamecock Club to get Tron Foster, this Clemson fan, who's had a lot of struggles and not doing very well, and situated him right in front of basically where the Clemson buses park when they're coming into Williams-Brice Stadium, and situated him right there. So basically he would kind of have to run into Dabo. And so Dabo Swinney, there's a video that's been passed around social media of the interaction, came over, said some nice words to him, gave him a hug, all that stuff. And Dabo mentioned Tron Foster by his first name in the post-game press conference and said some nice words about him and wished him well. After the game, or maybe during the game, after the game, Tron, wasn't feeling very well, and so they ended up getting him home. I think he was maybe in hospice care already, and went home, got an opportunity to see Dabo Swinney, say his name in the press conference, and from what I'm told was grinning ear to ear in that. And then Tyler passed away that night at about 9 o'clock or so, sometime during that night, and the word came down. So, man, that one just got me. I mean, I thought it was a story worth telling because, look, it's some things are just way bigger than a football game, that goes on. And I thought it was a really cool example of you've got a Clemson fan, you've got Gamecock fans, you got the Gamecock Club, you got Dabo Swinney, the head coach of the rival school in Columbia, and kind of just a really cool story of everybody coming together and making something really special happen, and I got a chance to talk to Russ about it. I got a chance to talk to, one of Tron's family members who was there with him that day, and it just meant so much, and he got to have, an amazing time, and I don't think anybody knew it would be his last day, but it was such a cool story, and it's getting passed around on social media a lot, and has really brought everybody together. So, man, it just puts things in perspective.
Yeah, really. It does, and that's an awesome story I saw. I think Larry, who we talked to the other day, screen grabbed it, and that's kind of the one that's getting a lot of run. There's a picture with Dabo, me with him and stuff. But, yeah, it does really put things in perspective, man, that at the end of the day, the results on the field aren't as important as some of those greater life things. And, look, we love to poke our fun at Dabo, and he says goofy stuff sometimes. It's part of the rivalry. We jab back and forth. But, like, Dabo's a good dude. You know what I mean? Like, there's nobody that would deny that he's like a good-hearted person, wants obviously the best for his team program, and seems to be well-versed within the community up there in Clemson and the state of South Carolina as well. And that's really cool that they were able to fulfill that wish for him. Again, he didn't know that was ultimately going to be his last day, but, man, if you could have maybe asked him what your perfect day would have looked like, that probably would have been the answer.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. And, he again was apparently grinning ear to ear when he heard that. And a lot of people came to, whether it's people who were just fans or it was people who, Clyde Wren was involved. That was the other cool thing. Clyde Wren, who works here at South Carolina now for Shane Beamer, but has worked at Clemson in the past and is someone that's really beloved, kind of the rare person maybe that's beloved by both Clemson and South Carolina people because he's worked for both and knows everybody. He had a hand in all of it. So it was just an awesome example. We're obviously there's so much talk about the game and what happens on the field, but that was something that just went beyond it. So I don't know. I just, for anybody who had missed it, I just wanted to mention that.
He did get to see his team win too. So there's that.
He did.
So
yes,
obviously we're dealing with the repercussions of Carolina losing, what that means for them and stuff like that. But if you need something to make you feel, I don't know about better about the loss, knowing what that meant to him, and again what ended up being his last day, that can maybe make that a little sting a little bit less. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So amazing story.
Yeah,
amazing story.
Awesome story there, and again, great for Dabo to do that, and give him a reason to smile there at the very end. But it does put things in perspective, and when you're dealing with a season like Carolina's had, where things haven't been great, looking at the bigger picture of things sometimes isn't a bad thing. And again, there are things, more important than what happens on the field or the diamond or the court or whatever. Again, we focus so much on that because that's our jobs. We write about it, we talk about it, and all those kind of things. And there are things way bigger than the sports happening themselves. So I'm glad you shared that. That was a really neat story.
Yeah. So, that one got me, and I think there'll be a little bit more to that story. The video's gone around social media, but I think it's from what I've heard, there's a possibility that Larry, since there's definitely a big Clemson element to that, may talk to some of the people involved, including some of the people on the South Carolina side, and be able to put out a little bit more detail in it. So Tron's funeral, from what I understand, is on Sunday, and so obviously the family's been dealing with all that for quite a while, so wishing nothing but the best for their family as they navigate that. Like I said, had a chance to talk to the uncle yesterday and had a great conversation with him, and man, it's just a touching story, no doubt.
Yeah, we'll dive more into what happened on the field as well as getting some buy or sell and all that other stuff that we got into on Friday as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Tuesday on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyree, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell will be along with us coming up here in a little bit. We have to check on buy or sell coming up later on the hour. And Chris, I'll tell you, you had a pretty good day on Saturday.
I did?
You did pretty good. You may have created a little bit of a lead for yourself, but we'll wait till Wes gets here to get into that a little bit. Real quick, people know that I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. Unfortunately, the season's not going well. They lost to the Jets on Sunday. That tells you everything about how that season's going. And I just got a notification on my phone from The Athletic because I follow some of the writers on there, and anytime they write a story, it pops up. And I just only kind of saw it out of the side of my eye, and I thought it said Raheem Morris had gotten fired, but no, it was just him once again being quoted as saying, "Winning is our job. We got to find ways to win," and they're circling the drain. It's a rough existence.
So Tyler, you're now living out the fan experience of being tired of what the guy's saying in a press conference?
Yes, okay. I am. And I feel bad because, Preston doesn't have a specific favorite NFL team. So what he's done the past couple years is he's adopted a team. Last year he was a Vikings fan. Worked out really well. They made the playoffs. Didn't end the way he wanted it to, but it was a fun season for him. And this year, after courting several teams, he chose the Falcons. I told him, I was like, listen, man, it's going to be bumpy. I don't know what's going to happen, and this year has not gone well. And coupled with the fact that he, of course, is also a former South Carolina player, football's not been fun for Preston this year, and I take part responsibility in that.
Why did he pick the Falcons?
And Elijah did a really good job of laying out all these metrics and statistics and stuff of teams that would fit a Preston Thorne football identity. Good defense, good run game, the personality of the head coach, all those things, and he ultimately settled. I did kind of try and talk him out of it a little bit. I said, listen, man, got to be ready for 28-3 jokes because we still haven't lived those down. Mm-hmm. But he chose the Falcons, and our text conversations on Sunday have been interesting because there have been some really good ones and some really bad ones. But, yeah, he's living the roller coaster, which, again, being a South Carolina football fan, know the roller coaster very well. When I first started here, within a month, Preston said, hey, this place is a roller coaster, man. Get ready for it. And my goodness, have I lived that reality the past 3 years.
Were you kind of I don't know. It's probably not like he described.
Well, again, I'm very familiar with South Carolina just by living in Georgia, being a fan of the SEC in general. I knew what had happened
Played every year. Yeah.
But being ingrained in it every single day, it's man, he wasn't kidding.
Yeah,
this is real.
So it's been more extreme than you thought?
It's more extreme than I thought. And again, now we're unfortunately at the bottom part of the roller coaster right now where you hope as you're going through the ride, you see a big up point coming up and then maybe a plateau after the up point of, okay, let's stay here for a while and not have one of those drops where they like to take your picture as you're going down so they can see you screaming or whatever.
Yeah.
We're at a low point right now. And look, as we knew last week, Beamer's getting 2026. There's no denying that. But, man, it's just – and Jack and I talked about this earlier. The expectations, okay, maybe saying they were going to make the playoff this year was a little lofty, right? Considering what they lost and how tough the SEC is. But, 8-4, 7-5, reasonable expectation. And, I know we're sick of Beamer saying they're close, they're close. They were, but they didn't get the job done. And I think Saturday, going back to our conversation yesterday, where once again, you have the ball, 3.5 minutes to go, chance to drive down the field and win the game. As ugly as the game had been in some aspects, you still could have gone down there, won the game, and ended the season 5-7, and you blink and pick six, game over at that point in time. Mm-hmm. That's just the identity of what this team ended up being this year, all wrapped up in one single play at the end of the fourth quarter on Saturday.
Yeah, people don't like hearing from a coach, especially when things aren't going well, that we're close. And, Beamer would started saying that at the end of the season. I know nobody wants to hear it. If you look at the games, the reality was that they were close in a lot of those games because you can just point to the fact that they were either down a score or sometimes up a score in the fourth quarter of a lot of those games. The reality is also that they did not finish any of those games. And so ultimately at the end of the season, your record is your record, and our job is to go back and analyze, A, why, B, can you get it fixed? How do you get it fixed? And we can kind of opine on all those things and report on things that are happening or that they're looking to make happen, whether it's recruiting or staffing or transfer portal and all those things to get it fixed. But at the end of the day, people don't contextualize, and look, rightfully so, it is a results-oriented business. If you go through 2 seasons where you lose and you say, well, there were a lot of injuries that season. Okay, but you still lost. Hey, we're a young team, still lost. Hey, a lot of the games are close, still lost, And so it's a results-oriented business, and people want to figure out, can you get it better, right? And so it creates some questions because you look at it and you say, gosh, like Kevin Miller from Gamecock Central did a fantastic autopsy of the 2025 season on Gamecock Central, and he laid out all the different reasons why things did not go well. And it got more granular than just, well, they didn't finish games in the fourth quarter. That was obvious. Why? And so you can look at personnel. You can look at coaching decisions. Obviously, the coaching staff was not optimal, as evidenced by the fact that Shane Beamer dismissed for the first time and did it twice, 2 coaches within the season. You look at the offensive line struggling. You look at, yes, there were some injuries that did play a part at times. You look at Lenore Sellers and how he didn't have the season that everybody envisioned. You look, frankly, sometimes there's some bad luck. I mean, you strip sack Cade Klubnik, he picks up the football, runs for a touchdown. A little bit of bad luck there, to be honest with you. Now, was the entire season bad luck? Absolutely not. Normally in football, you make your own luck. But when it's so close, with the margin for error being so low, with the margins being so tight, sometimes a play like that can happen. And so that was one play in one game, and there were a lot of other opportunities. It was an important play, and that's not the story of the season. It's just one of many, many things. So you are close on the scoreboard going into the fourth quarter, but you're not close on the scoreboard in terms of what matters the most, wins and losses. So the question then is what we've been talking about for weeks and what we're going to continue to talk about. Can you fix it? Can you retain the talent that was integral to being close? Can you upgrade the talent that was not, to help you get over that hump? Can you upgrade the coaching staff, whether it's your OC hire, your offensive line coach hire? Do you need to make any other tweaks? How are you situated for the transfer portal in terms of NIL, your scouting department? Like, all those things have to be looked at, and I think they are, and that makes for a very, very, very busy December.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I hate to say that it's an advantage, because it's not really, because you'd much rather be playing a bowl game and get those 15 practices to prepare for the next season, which are kind of like de facto spring practices at this point, because you're kind of, unless you're playing in a playoff, really kind of looking ahead at that point in time and seeing what talent you have and what roles you need to fill. But you can singularly focus on those things now. You're not worrying about a bowl game. You got sign-in day tomorrow, sign your class. You got this OC hire, which we think is going to be done relatively soon based on what Beamer said. Sounds like it. You got portal opening up at the beginning of January. You've got other potential staff moves to make, and that's something else. As you mentioned, you made 2 staff moves within the season, which for the Beamer era was an unprecedented thing to do. We'd never done that before, and prior to that, the only actual staff move he'd made was firing Montero Hardesty after 2023 and bringing in Markel Blackwell. Okay, do you look at that spot again? How do you evaluate some of your defensive assistants? Like, when you go 4-8, nothing's off the table, right?
That's right.
You can't sit here and say anybody's job is 100% safe. And Clayton White, maybe he goes and takes another job. I know there's the rumors and connections with him and Coastal. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. But he's certainly a name that's been discussed when it comes to taking jobs before. And it's not insane to think that he could take one now. So are you looking for new defensive coordinators? So many things to do. And the unfortunate part, and I keep bringing up this analogy, but I think it's very fitting. You saw the movie Click, right, with Adam Sandler?
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2006 or whenever that was, where he can pause time and he can do whatever he wants. He can move people. He can affect things in the world around him, and nobody else can move. And in a perfect world, you could pause all of college football, make the changes you want to make, and get yourself caught up to everybody else. But that's not the reality. Everybody else is also making changes. Everybody else is also improving their staff, improving their roster, trying to get themselves better. So you're playing catch-up while also trying to do all these same things too.
That's a great point. You would like to be able to say, hey, everybody else, hold on.
I'm going to make my changes here.
Don't try to improve, but that's something you got to think about. Even in the offensive coordinator search, right? Like, it's easy to say, go get so-and-so, go get a great name. And there is an element as a head coach of being able to recruit talent not only to your roster but coaching talent, right? That is part of it. But it's not that simple. You know, you've got an almost or maybe completely unprecedented coaching carousel, which means now some of those same offensive coordinators are getting head coaching jobs. Will Stein, is one example of that. You've got other guys who, quite frankly, if they've got an opportunity, let's say there's an offensive coordinator out there that is so good that he could have an opportunity if he wanted at Florida, Auburn, South Carolina, Kentucky, right? You got to weigh all those things, and professionally that person, might already have a good situation and doesn't want to leave or need to leave. Buster Faulkner is a great example of that at Georgia Tech.
Sure.
My understanding, a lot of people are interested in him. He's been very picky because he's also been in the mix for some smaller school head coaching jobs. He's got a pretty good thing going at Georgia Tech right now. He's very well paid. I think he's, got a 2-year deal worth $3-4 million. Like, he's doing just fine. And you got to think about stability. So, we all know the reality is South Carolina going into a very, very important year next season. Some of these other coaches, they got brand new contracts. Shane Beamer's only on year 2 of a new contract. Mm-hmm. But these guys, my point is, they've got complete resets. They've got a little bit more runway in terms of year one. It's year 1 for them. It's not year 6. So it's a little different. So you would like to just be able to pause and say, nobody else make a move and let me do my thing, but that's not the reality of it. And that's the same thing in recruiting, same thing in the transfer portal. You might have your dream team of transfer portal targets. This is not just for South Carolina, it's for anybody. Well, when that thing actually opens, and there's plenty of activity before it opens, as we all know, everybody's wanting a bunch of those guys.
Sure.
And the figures change and the deal, there's just a lot of moving parts in this.
Yeah, well, and also you have some pretty good talent that other people, let's face it, are going to be tried to poach away.
Yes.
And you'd be naive to pretend those conversations aren't already happening. Phone calls, DMs, whatever it may be. Like, hey, man, here you're making X at Carolina. Come here, we'll give you $500,000 more, and you'll be in this offense and play with this guy and that guy. Like, those conversations are ongoing. So and whether we love it or not, that's the reality of college football, and that's the job of the head coach now, is to balance all those things. And oh, by the way, Christmas is coming up in a couple weeks, so got that too. That'll be maybe half a day of reprieve, if nothing else, where you're trying to figure everything else out. But yeah, that's why you get paid all the money, to figure these things out as a head coach. And I don't envy it. I envy the paycheck, but I don't envy the job.
The job, yeah. I was talking to somebody about that this morning. It's like I realize these guys get paid a lot, but some of the things that they choose to do it, but some of the things they have to deal with and the toll it can take on you and the toll it can take on your family, like, it's a lot. Some of the stories you hear.
Go back and look at the picture of Beamer when they brought him here in 2020 in December, almost exactly to this day in December of 2020. Look at how colorful his hair was, and look at it now. Being a head coach is like being the president. They do those things like, here's the president after like 6 months, a year, 2 years in office. They all get very gray very quickly.
Yes.
There's a reason for that.
There's a lot of stress with it.
Yeah, so don't envy that. But again, Beamer has got to figure things out for 2026. Men's basketball in action tonight. Pivotal game. They take on Virginia Tech in the SEC ACC Challenge. Have one family 4-pack of tickets to go see the men's team in action for caller number 5 right now at 803-404-6100. Again, go see men's basketball take on Virginia Tech over at Colonial Life Arena for caller number 5 at 803-404-6100. What did Lane Kiffin have to say at his introductory press conference yesterday? We'll get into that coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Tuesday on the Game.
I'm very honored to be the head coach of LSU. I can sum it up by saying this place is different. And having watched this place for a long time, having been on the other sidelines in this stadium, this place is different, and that's why we're here.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs Tire. Chris West joining us now as you just heard the voice of the new head coach of the Louisiana State Tigers, that being one Lane Kiffin, after an interesting saga that all came to a head on Sunday. We brought it up earlier. There were clothes being left at the airport or on the tarmac. There were women holding babies, shooting middle fingers and shouting words we can't say on the radio at them. You know, just your typical SEC goodbye, I guess, is the best way to put it. And, man, he got a hero's welcome when he came to Baton Rouge. You would have thought he was the king return or the prince returning home by the way the streets were lined and all that kind of stuff. And now we'll see what happens.
Man, I mean, I'm fascinated to see how this thing goes because the expectations have been set. They're now through the roof. You fire Brian Kelly. Things weren't going great. It's not like they had tanked. Like,
it wasn't a disaster.
It wasn't a complete nut. Now, an LSU fan would tell you, yes, it is. But it's not like they had, 5 losing seasons in a row. When you make a move like this and you go through all of whatever that was that just happened to get Lane Kiffin in, you're signaling, hey, we're going all in here. We're pushing the chips to the table. By the way, how silly was it that to go back and look at the Louisiana governor's comments? I mean, but we're not going to, the next coach we hire is not going to have a buyout or an agent. We might not even give him a contract. He didn't actually say that. But, and now it's like actually he gave a contract that's $90 million and, you're paying his bonuses for making the college football playoff at a different school.
That's the most insane part to me.
You're giving an 80% buyout. His agent is Jimmy Sexton.
Sexton wasn't going to let him come unless you had a big buyout.
Well, yeah, exactly. And Lane says he didn't ask about the money. Sure. I mean, maybe not. He probably just assumed, I'm getting a giant contract, So, who knows? But the expectations are huge now because the team you're coming from is literally in the playoff. It is an amazing job with great football resources, with great football history, and they're going to expect you to come in and win. You can't go in there. I'm not saying Lane Kiffin's getting fired if he goes in there and wins 8 games next year. I haven't looked at their schedule. They do play Ole Miss in Oxford.
That'll be fun. Bring your mustard.
But you gotta go win now because everybody's super happy now. But if this thing doesn't pan out quickly, and it may pan out quickly, Lane Kiffin has this team in the playoff. It's his best season as a coach ever, and it is a tremendous season. He won't coach him in the playoff. But it's not like you're hiring Nick Saban to your school. It's not like when Bama hired Nick Saban, he's already won a national championship and all those things. This is still, everybody's a risk now. Lane Kiffin's probably way less of a risk than some other guys, but the expectations are huge here.
Wes, would you take your newborn child to the airport to scream at a head coach on their way out?
Oh, old me, maybe about 15 years ago.
College version.
Yeah. I mean, dude, my favorite was when there was that one video where they're all out there yelling and then it's kind of quiet and then they're like, "What? That's Charlie. That's Charlie getting on the plane." Charlie Weis Jr., obviously the offensive coordinator, and then everybody kind of gets riled up. Wait, that is Charlie, and then all of a sudden, lots of words you can't say on the radio hurled at Charlie Weis Jr. Just to hear it play out and be processed in real time, hilarious. Not only is LSU once again getting themselves in a massive contract where if it doesn't work out, they're going to have to pay out a humongous number. So not only are they putting themselves in a position for that, they're also paying Ole Miss's bonuses to Lane Kiffin as well. Yes. Talk about being just raked over the coals from a negotiation standpoint. I know that I know Kiffin was their guy, and they wanted to be able to say, we went out and we got our guy. I don't know, man. Boys, I can't help but feel like just kind of dirty about this whole thing. Like, you know, my guy, I say my guy, I don't actually know him, but y'all know I mostly agree with about everything Cole Kubelik says. And I thought he had a great take on Twitter when he said, you know, everything about football is based around the word finish. You know, finish the block, finish the game, finish the job, finish the rep in the weight room. And it's just a little bit like I can't buy into Kiffin being the victim here. Like, he is playing the victim role. I wanted to coach in the playoff. They just wouldn't let me. No school in their right mind is going to let you coach for their rival simultaneously while you coach for them. And but Kiffin, I wanted to stay. If you wanted to stay, you should have just stayed. And I think, man, I know it would probably mean you're turning down a great opportunity, but Ole Miss is giving you everything you've ever asked for. And I just feel like if you have a chance to go win a title, you owe it to yourself and the team, even if it means passing on some opportunities, man. Championships are why you're here. Championships are why you're there. This will be the equivalent of South Carolina hiring a coach who was down on his luck and giving him everything he wants, and then they start winning. They finally make it further than they've ever been before, and then he strings them along for an entire week about going to Georgia, and then says, I want to coach you guys in the playoff while simultaneously building my roster for Georgia, and we play you in Athens next year. Like, what?
Yeah.
No, not going with that, not going for that.
And so John Talty of CBS Sports had a really good in-depth piece of what all went down and why this happened the way that it did. And it seems that Kiffin was concerned about the long-term sustainability of having the resources that he needed Ole Miss to be successful. Again, right now they're doing great, and they've had had a really great portal class last year that did make the playoff. Really overachieved with what they had, all things considered, this year, and made the playoff, but he didn't think that they were going to be able to consistently give him what he needed to keep Ole Miss at a high level. That's in his mind. Doesn't mean that's true or not.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the catalyst for why. That and the fact that it's a blue blood job that he's seemingly been chasing after since getting fired by Southern Cal in the tarmac. That seems to be two of the bigger points of why he made the decision he made.
Well, and supposedly Nick Saban and Pete Carroll, he didn't say this. He did say it with Pete the other day in his Marty Smith interview, but he strongly insinuated that Nick Saban, who's been at LSU and has publicly said that he made a mistake by leaving LSU to go to the Dolphins. He obviously did fine for himself, but he very much said that those guys encouraged him to take the job. I will say I talked to somebody who knows Lane, who had not talked to him very recently, a couple weeks ago, and I said, what do you think he's going to do? And he said, I don't know. He said, but I bet he goes to LSU because he's got an ego. Yep. And a lot of guys do, but it's just it's the shiny object. It's LSU. It is a great, some people would argue maybe it is the best job in college football. And when you've got that in your mind and you've got people you very much trust and kind of idolize in Nick Saban and Pete Carroll telling you to do it, or telling you, hey, your dad would tell you to do it, you can kind of see the draw. At the same time, rough look, with how it all went down. And you can blame the calendar and all that, but the calendar is what the calendar is. Mm-hmm. And to your point, Wes, you got to, as a coach, work within that. I know Lane said, my team wanted me to coach. Maybe some of them did, but a lot of stuff you've seen and heard indicates that they were not very happy with him.
And now all of his yoga buddies in Oxford are trashing him on TikTok.
That's right.
If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's hilarious. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. How do we do on buy or sell this past week? Chris had a pretty good weekend. We'll detail that coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you, wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the game. It is time to go over buy or sell from the weekend. Wes and Chris came into the weekend tied atop the standings with 41 points apiece. I 3 points behind them with 38. Chris, it was a good weekend for you. We'll run through this. Question number 1. In the last 10 meetings, the team with more rush yards won 9 times. The winner would lose the rushing battle on Saturday. You two both sold on that. I bought, so you both got credit because Clemson had 147 yards. South Carolina had 41. I was being risky, trying to make ups on the ground. Didn't work out for me.
I get it.
Question number 2. In 2 starts versus South Carolina, Cade Klubnik had 0 touchdown passes. That streak would continue. We all sold on it. He still has not thrown a touchdown pass against. May never. I'm assuming he's going to the NFL. He may never throw a touchdown pass against South Carolina.
That's correct.
We didn't want to take the risk, I guess.
You know, he's rushed for touchdowns, and of course, to really drive the knife in and twist it, the play we talked about earlier, not only does he rush for a touchdown, let me pick up this fumble and run it in. Ugh.
Let me dribble the football and then run it in.
And still have the perfect angle on Desu to get to the end zone untouched. Insane. Which that actually leads to what buy or sell number 3 was. Last year, all 4 touchdowns were scored by quarterbacks. I set the line at 2.5 for quarterback rushing touchdowns. Let's see. It'll only be one, the one that Cade Klubnik ran in, and we all sold on that, so we were correct.
Okay.
Question number 4. Clemson was 92nd in red zone attempts. Carolina's 128th. Clemson had 3 times this year, had 5 or more red zone trips. Carolina had only done it once. Buy or sell, at least one team had 5+ red zone trips. Clemson only had 4. Just came in under. Chris, you were the only one that sold.
Explain yourselves. What'd you think there?
I don't know. I just thought
obviously you thought that, I get it, but
defensive lapses would allow a little more action inside the red zone, and unfortunately, Wes, Carolina made 0 red zone trips on Saturday.
I didn't understand the question.
You want to redo?
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Recount?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. The last question, by the way, was the leader at halftime won't win the game. Clemson was up 17-14. They, of course, won the game 28-14. And Chris, you were also the only one that sold on that.
Okay. I mean, that's just what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
We had a bad day, Wes.
We all got 3, right?
Wes got 2. I got 1.
Oh. I don't know. I
thought you said I got 3.
No. He said you got 3.
No, I thought both of you got 3. I thought we all agreed on the first 3 and all got them right. Tyler, are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back and check your work.
So listen, we all agreed on Cade Klubnik throwing a touchdown pass.
You said we sold.
Yes, we sold on the streak continuing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
I said the question was
So I got that one wrong.
he'd never thrown a touchdown pass against Carolina. Buy or sell, the streak continues. We sold because we all said he would, and he didn't. So we all got that wrong. So we got no credit for it.
Award you no points.
That's where the confusion comes in. And
yeah, I thought you said we sold on him throwing a touchdown.
No, we sold on him continuing his streak. And the bonus question was, of course, where's Lane Kiffin going to go? And Chris and I both said LSU. Wes, you said he was going to stay at Ole Miss. So congratulations, Chris. You had 5 total points out of the 6 possible answers on Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
You now lead 46-43 to 39.
Wow. Okay. You know, didn't we say we were ending this contest right after the regular season? That's what I remember hearing.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So here's my question to you guys. I'll put this in your hands. Do we end it the day of the national championship, or do we extend it to the Super Bowl and just ride out football season? I will allow you guys to decide on that.
I say it's been a college football thing the whole time.
Okay.
We remain college football to the end.
That's fine.
That's exactly what I think. We're all in agreement.
Now we can have some fun ones after the fact, but the actual contest will end on National Championship Monday.
And we need to come up with a prize.
We do. Well,
I'm not saying that just because I'm leading.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Chris thinks we should end it today and award a monetary prize to the winner, right?
Monetary, yes, from Terry Ford.
We could do an NFL just separate, like a NFL playoff.
We could do a playoff one separate. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but this one will end National Championship Monday, January, I don't know, is it 20th or 23rd or whatever? It's late this year. Whatever it's going to be, we'll end it then. So, Chris, you got a little bit of a buffer. Let's see if you can hold on to it.
I'll probably have the worst week ever next time.
We'll see what happens.
Pressure.
That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show with myself and Bill Gunner coming up next as your Tuesday rolls on here on the game.